Today is November 17, 2022, and this video is about Joe Rogan and UFOs Part 2. And it's about, this Part 2 is about David Flavor, with Joe Rogan interview on his program about the Navy pilot who saw the Tic Tac UFO, and he also interviewed a few other Navy pilots, but I don't believe those stories either, because those guys are working in the government, so they could be working the co-op a fake story about a UFO Tic Tac. Or if there was one, it could have been something within our own government or a foreign government about the UFO Tic Tac, because there's really no proof. I mean, all you just got is a Navy pilot and a videotape, and you don't believe and never believe nothing what the government put out, and never believe nothing what comes out of the government mouth either, because these guys could be lying, just like those Apollo astronauts was military guys, and those guys faked the moon and shit. I mean, cause you gotta remember, never really believe it come out of the mouth of some of these military and government people, especially if they put out tapes and say story. I think a lot of that could be bullshit too, about the David Fravor Tic Tac UFO incident. And what I heard about Joe Rogan was, I heard about, there's been a lot of stories about Joe Rogan is working with the system, about he used to question NASA, and he came out, now he no longer against NASA, like Bart Sorrell, who had dinner with Joe Rogan about the moon landing, and Joe Rogan was a huge believer that NASA never went to the moon, and then he changed his story, and there's been a lot of stories about the government man that got to Joe Rogan, and that's why he's so popular. The co-opted conspiracy, which I think there's a lot of truth to it. Because you take a look at the Bar Desire case, for example, where Joe Rogan said, "I can't talk about what Bar Desire did at New Mexico, at Los Alamos, I can't pronounce the name, at New Mexico, where he worked at some type of engineer guy before he went to Area 51 and S4." And then he told me, "I can't talk about it." It seemed like whatever Bar Desire did before he went to Area 51 was more top secret than some alien crap. And if the government did have an alien crap Area 51, don't you think other countries would have tried to stole that technology, like England, France, Russia, Iraq, Soviet Union? I mean, Russia was Soviet at that time when Bar Desire came out, like China. Other countries would have tried to stole that. If they had the alien technology, then they would have took out many enemies, like the Russians, the China, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela. They would have took out Al Qaeda, many enemies. They had an alien spacecraft, the government. I think that's all bullshit. That's what I think, and I think Joe Rogan and I think the George Bar Desire, for example, he was first interviewed by a guy named Jordan Knapp, which I think he's a CIA. I think Jordan Knapp is a CIA. That's what I personally believe. He looked like it. Because he do coast to coast and stuff like that. He looked like a CIA. That's what I believe. I think he worked with the CIA, because I heard before Bar Desire came out and stuff, the government didn't have much land over Nevada, and when he came out, the government seized more land on Nevada. and that Bar Desire guy, I also worked with Bob Bigelow, the phony skinhead hoax guy, the guy who was the skinhead, the Skinwalker Ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch guy, Bob Bigelow, which him and Jordan Knapp was a hoax on that. With that paranormal Disneyland. And Bob Bigelow, he worked with what? Bob Desire. To try to find out the whole UFO government stuff. No, I think it's all bullshit. It's all smoke screen. And Joe Rogan, he working with the system, because Bart Sorrell had exposed them bitty time. He believed that the government had threatened Joe Rogan's life, and that's why he had changed his mind about the moon mission and the way how he act now. There could be some truth to that conspiracy. I don't believe what Sergeant. I don't believe what David Flavor said. The guy who actually saw the Tic Tac. I don't believe in. I don't believe in that whole UFO stuff anymore. I think it's a white American folklore tale. That's what I think. I believe there could be paranormal stuff out there. I believe in paranormal, but I don't believe in no aliens coming to Earth. I don't believe that. I think that's a science fiction. I don't believe in no universe out there either. I think the Earth could be possibly flat, or there's a firmament up there we can't leave low Earth orbit. Because the Russians never left low Earth orbit, or did Americans. I don't believe in the moon mission. So I think there's a lot of hopes going on a lot of that. That's how I look at it. And like I said, I mean, I don't believe Balthazar. I don't believe his story at all. I mean, he could look back at the interview what he did 30 years ago, and that's why he camped on it again. That's what I believe. I think the whole UFO thing is just bullshit.